A very warm welcome to the World of Lord Russell podcast talk show. And today's show is English cricket's Barmy Army, which captures the life of a British entrepreneur and the current chairman of the Barmy Army. He is managing director of Emprise Group Limited, leading an ever-growing portfolio of global brands in sport, tourism, and indeed leisure too, which includes the Barmy Army Travel, the R66T Academy, and Emprise Digital, plus co-founder of the International Cricket Supporters Committee and a proud ambassador of the Children's Hospital charity too. Yes, folks, it gives me immense pleasure to welcome on the show Chris Millard. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Thank you for having me. It's a lovely intro as well. It feels like I've been busy.
You certainly have. Yeah, I've done a bit of a check on your past. You certainly have been busy. It's good to see, really. It really is. I mean, Chris, you are a former student at Leeds Beckett University, where you graduated with a BA Honours in Sports Development in 2016. I mean, tell us more about your sports development course and, of course, Leeds Beckett University.
Yeah, it was. We had a great time there. I was there from 2013 to 2016, and
Mm.
certainly you learn a lot, as anyone will tell you, going to university, and it opens your eyes to the real world. And it was, my first opportunity, my first venture into, I guess, the working world of sport. I did a lot of volunteering when I was younger. Before school, I was a volunteer at the Olympics in 2012.
Mm.
Did an awful lot of volunteer at major sporting events. So I always knew that I had a passion for sport, and I had a passion to work in sport at some point. And when I went to university, that just further grew my interest in, I guess, more about the sports administration. I think if I had my time again, it'd be more down the sport business route.
Mm.
But sport development was the way I went, and I thoroughly enjoyed my time there. And since going on work placement in 2016, 15, even with the Barmy Army, I've not looked back.
Indeed. I mean, talking about the Barmy Army, you just mentioned that. Let's talk about the phenomenon that is the Barmy Army. I mean, so how did the Barmy Army come about, and who were the original creators of the Barmy Army, Chris?
Yeah, so the Barmy Army started in 1994, 1995 with Paul, Gareth, and Dave. They went on a backpacking trip together, and they stumbled across this group of England fans that all had the shared interest of that was very much the same, supporting the England team, singing some songs, getting together in the big numbers, even though the England team were getting battered. The Barmy Army, as we now know them, were there singing along, supporting the team through thick and thin. That's become the DNA of what we do today. And we're looking 30 years on now, and it's the heartbeat is stronger and bigger than ever before. And they were very entrepreneurial over there in Australia when they decided to trademark the name in the UK and in Australia, and then sell some T-shirts off the back of it. Thousands of shirts flew out the next test after founding the Barmy Army in Adelaide, and the rest is history. As I say, we still speak to Gareth, who's in New Zealand, lives in New Zealand. Dave Peacock is still relatively involved, just in more of an ambassador way. And Paul Burnham still sits on our board, who drove the business until I took over in 2017-18.
Ah, fantastic. I mean, you have a childhood friend, of course, with England cricket star Joe Root, and what a player he was. And you took over the role of the Barmy Army's managing director, as you just stated. The Barmy Army has been established now for over 25 years and initially started as a group of backpackers, as you said, traveling to see the England team breaking out into the cult phenomenon that it's become today. So please tell us about your journey so far from the beginning to today with the Barmy Army. It must be some fantastic stories.
Yes, so it's been a hell of a ride, and I really, I guess, found out more about the Barmy. I always used to watch and support them. I'm a massive cricket fan myself.
Mm.
And when Joe first broke into the England team in 2013, he informed me of the phenomenon of the Barmy Army, and he told me more about it and said, you can work for the Barmy Army. He got to know the guys that ran it, Paul at the time, and he
Mm.
put me in touch with Paul, and we hit it off. And I started doing some free work for the Barmy Army just to be able to go on the tours and sell some T-shirts and put people on and off buses. And then one thing led to another. I graduated from university, moved down to London to work out of the Sunbury office that the Barmy Army were at the time. And we started to develop the brand and try and move it forward. And in 2018, I was given the opportunity to pitch to the board a proposal that would showcase how we could try and move the brand forward. I guess at the time it was in a place where the membership numbers were dwindling. The social media wasn't really growing as quick as we'd like. It needed an injection of new energy, and I think Paul knew that, and he wanted to step back from it. And fortunately, I was given the opportunity to pitch something to them that they gleefully accepted, and the rest is history. We've rebranded. We've grown from 1,500 members to 8,000 paying members, over 40,000 people that are on our membership database as well, 3 million social media followers. The list goes on. So it's certainly been a hell of a ride. If it wasn't for COVID, who knows where we might be now? But look, it's slowed down the growth a little bit, but we're still enjoying it.
Well, we blame COVID for a lot of things, don't we, in life, really? It's destroyed so many things. Even under the wings of myself, COVID was bad for myself too. But that's life. You can't legislate against that, can you? These things happen.
Correct. Yeah, you've got it. Exactly. And I guess we made the most of it. We really engaged with our database and our membership and tried to really understand it more and look after our members and nurture the data. It gave us the opportunity to sit back and reassess the business and go again. So it's part of life, isn't it? You have your stumbles and you've got to get back up and you've got to attack it again. And we're excited about the future now from learning from what we learned back during those darker days.
Darker days indeed. And of course, the Barmy Army, which is now a limited company, states under your direction, Chris, that it wants to make watching cricket more fun and more popular. The group uses flags, banners, songs, and chants to encourage the team and crowd participation in their activities too. I mean, you hear it at every ground, don't you? It's incredible. The contrast of the reputations, of course, of some sports for hooliganism, the Barmy Army organisers, yourself in principle, actively discourage and avoid such behaviour. And quite right too, Chris, too. You do it in a positive way, don't you? It's fantastic.
Yeah, and that's been the DNA of the Barmy Army all along, and that's something that Paul and Dave drove home to me from the early days, that we have to stamp out any footballish behaviour, and if there is anything that's on the line of what you would class as actually not actively supporting, it's just pure aggression, then we do stamp that out. It's incredibly self-policing, the Barmy Army. We've had less people kicked out over our 30 years as members than the MCC had at Lords during the Ashes test. So
wow, that's good.
Yeah, we're very proud of our reputation, and we get a little bit frustrated when the media sometimes perceive us to be something we're not. So I keep banging the drum, keep telling the story about who we are and why we exist, and it's all about maximizing the experience and the enjoyment for everyone, be that the fans, be that the players, be that the media, be that people just wanting to get involved. It's all about maximizing the enjoyment for everyone. You don't have to be singing the songs as part of it. You don't have to be watching along. You can hate the singing and not sing it anywhere near us at the other end of the stadium, which is fine. We still want to be able to offer you a service. You can still be a Barmy Army member. You can still be part of a wonderful existence of passionate sports fans.
Absolutely. And you could probably say, actually, the most, England, without doubt, is the best supported cricket nation in the world, isn't it? Bash through with the Barmy Army. That's an amazing support level throughout the world.
Yeah, we take people everywhere, be that Bangladesh or Sydney. There'll be an existence of Barmy Army travelling members there. And we also do a lot for the local economies. So in Barbados in 2019, I think it was, the report that we put 80 million in that week into circulation on the island of additional revenue for that country. And 2017-18, during the Ashes, we put 320 million Australian dollars into the ecosystem there. So it really does give a lot to the countries that we tour. The Barmy Army and the travelling fans, they really do have an impact, and we have a financial impact on the countries as well.
Yeah, that's good to hear. That's really good to hear. And quite an amazing tribute to the Barmy Army, really, when you think about it. That's an amazing story. And when you joined the Barmy Army in the second year of your course on placement, I believe, you were doing a sport marketing module, as we know at the time, which inspired you to choose a sports business placement. Because of that, you were able to gain £20,000 in sponsorship for the Barmy Army whilst on the placement. I mean, that is pretty amazing, isn't it, Chris? Tell us more. That seems to be like a real climb in life. Amazing.
Yes, yeah, it was good. I think the university were relatively impressed with it. They have me tell that story a few times about how you can have impact on your work placement. So yeah, I was really pleased. It was my first dip into the commercial sponsorship world, and I managed to land a relatively big contract. I think it was Green King to do with a Barmy Army sponsored beer. So It was an incredibly fun experience, and I look back and think, I'm quite pleased with myself. Now, when we take placements on, we've got 18 full-time employees at the minute, and when we take a new work placement on, I'll always task them with trying to outdo what I did when I first started.
That's not a bad thing, is it, really, to be honest with you? Put them straight in the deep end. Why not? You never
Exactly.
know. They might come out on top, Chris. Just standing on your shirt tails before too long, probably.
Why not?
Yeah, absolutely. And after your placement, you went on to work with the Barmy Army, balancing your work and studies, something you were supported with, of course, as well, by your course tutors. And that's incredible. You said at the time, and I quote, "I had a really good relationship with the tutors on the course. They were a big part of the reason I chose Leeds Beckett after meeting them on the opening day. Forging that kind of relationship and support is incredible and just shows what you can achieve at such a young age, Chris."
Yeah, I think it's important. Relationships, life's about relationships, right?
It
And you've
is.
got to, whether that's in your studies, whether that's in the workplace, whether that's with your family, having good relationships and giving people the time of day and treating people the right way and having your values that you align your life to is crucial to me. And the tutors, I think at the time, were very aligned to what I wanted and my values. And it was definitely the tutors that sold the course, not the course that sold. Always people before context, if you're anything to do with my life.
Absolutely right indeed. Yeah, I can understand that. So quite simply, your tutors saw the scope of the opportunity of the Barmy Army and how you were driven by it, I mean, clearly driven, and then helped you to make sure you were able to work with the Barmy Army and balance it with your studies. I mean, that's incredible support, isn't it? That's a great journey, Chris. What a fantastic university they must be.
Yeah, it was great. It gave me the opportunity to stay on post placement, and I was working 2 days a week and doing my university 3 days a week. So I've actually got a work placement now who's on the same terms with his university. So I'd love to replicate that for him, and maybe he could stand in my shoes one day as well.
Absolutely. And probably, I'm sure they'll be looking at that as well, actually, moving forwards, Chris. It's such a success story, it really is. So at 24, and 24, you became responsible for leading the Barmy Army and its 33,000 plus members, 7 staff in the UK, and up to 20 staff on tour. I mean, that's some story too, Chris. So what was the biggest challenge or challenges you felt or you had at the time?
Yeah, the biggest challenge was definitely, I guess, the sense of imposter syndrome when you first start in a role like that. And I naturally had confidence from leading sports teams and being a young leader and doing a lot of volunteering and doing a lot of stuff outside of school and university. But the challenge was always I was in charge of everybody who was working for me was significantly older than me. So there's naturally a difficult contextual challenge there. To people that have been working for the business quite a while, that I came in as a new work placement, and then all of a sudden I was the boss, and eventually had to move a couple of them on because they couldn't get over that hurdle. But yeah, and that's probably the right thing for everyone at the time. So we were able to hit the reset button, rebrand, start again, move the business up to Sheffield near me, and bring the right people around me that I needed. And we went from 7 full-time employees down to 3 or 4 because that's all the business required at the time. We licensed out a lot of the different sectors we operate in. So we licensed out travel, we licensed out the merchandise, we licensed out everything but the membership events as well. And we just looked after the membership and rebuild the trust of the followers, rebuild the database, turn the Barmy Army into a big digital footprint that's engaged on social media. And then I'm pleased to say that 2 years ago, we brought travel back in-house, which was the end of all the licensing agreements. And then when we were ready to scale, we've managed to bring everything back in-house and start again. So we've got 18 full-time employees now. And I guess when we go to Australia in 2025, we'll have upwards of 40 staff probably working for us during that tour. So yeah, it's a great journey.
The Ashes 2025 in Australia. Oh, that's exciting, isn't it?
It's been a long time coming. We obviously missed an Ashes tour because of the away Ashes tour because of COVID, and that was the biggest hit possible, not only to the fans, to the members, but also to our P&L. It really did have an impact. We take thousands of people over to Australia, so that was a big miss, and we are very, very ready for this one. Very excited. The team are talking about it every day in the office. The preparation's been happening for over 18 months now. So it's going to be a big spectacle. We know that the England team are preparing for that now with Stokesy and Ruti. And it's more of a case of counting down the days now.
Indeed, and of course, England last time round were so unlucky, weren't they, to lose the Ashes? Well, not lose the Ashes because it was a 2-2 draw, but of course, Australia retained them because they were the holders, and that was so sad. I mean, I remember watching the series, here in the UK, and England was so unlucky in some of those Test matches. They really were.
They were. It was a shame. There was many times where you think they could have probably won it and took it away from them, but it was a great spectacle, wasn't it? Really engaged the whole sporting public. So that's what we want to make sure happens. And going to Australia is a much bigger challenge, and let's see what they can do.
Yeah, and of course, sadly, it's often the weather that lets us down here in the UK, isn't it? It seems to play havoc on us sometimes against Australia. But yeah, let's get out there. Let's get out to Australia and see if we can bring the Ashes back home again. Fantastic. You did remove the St George's flag from the Barmy Army logo, so you are reaping the rewards of that decision now. I understand it's helping you expand as a business and reach a wider network of England fans. That's a brave decision, but I can fully support that. I really can.
Yeah, it didn't go without thought and consultation and time. And when we did it, it wasn't received overly well. I guess it was my first real experience at proper online social media abuse, which was an interesting thing to go through. But we got through it, and it's proved to be the right decision because we are in a much better place than we were back then. And the logo is we had many issues with the old logo, but the main one was how it was very hard to digitize, and we were trying to move the business to an online business, and it was hand painting at the end of the day. So something had to be done, and the decision was made to remove the St George's cross on the UK corporate based logo because we wanted to have a cleaner logo, have an easier approach to our marketing, our branding, and also we wanted to attract more people. And we surveyed a little bit, and it was quite clear that some people did have a bit of an issue with the St George's cross for political reasons or for personal reasons. So the right decision for the business was to take it out. I mean, I fully support people waving their England flag, supporting the England team. Absolutely. However, we were trying to grow a business. It was the right thing to do, and I stand by that decision.
Yeah, I think it's the right decision too. I mean, I thought about it long and hard when I read about this, and you know what, that is a great decision you've made there, and they say it serves a wider public, doesn't it? Across nations and politically, and everything else, broadens the horizons. Absolutely right.
Yeah, exactly. And there's just that political twist to the St George's Cross that was happening at the time when obviously the BNP were quite poignant, weren't they, back then? So
they were.
That was one of the main driving decisions behind it.
Yeah, sort of disassociate yourself with those kind of organisations, which is the right thing to do, isn't it? Because after all, you're named the Barmy Army. It sort of insinuates something more than just cricket supporters, doesn't it? But it's a great name.
If you could rename it, I wouldn't call it the Barmy Army. But
I think it's too late now.
It's far too late now. It's in the Oxford Dictionary, so there's no getting away from it.
Fantastic. I mean, most grounds, except Lord's, reserve areas of seating for Barmy Army fans. I was quite amazed when I read that, actually. Why has Lord's chosen not to reserve seating for the Barmy Army?
So we have allocations all over the world, and have had allocations all over the world for the past 30 years. Pleased to say that this year is the first year that Lords have given us an allocation. So we've managed to break down that barrier at last, and we're in Lords now, and we have an allocation reserved for the members. And it's I guess it's the final tick in the box to say we're in, and we're in every ground all over the world now, and long may it continue.
Oh, that's good to hear. That really is good to hear. Every ground in the world, the Barmy Army have an allocation. Oh, that's just sensational, isn't it? It really is.
Absolutely.
I mean, during 2019-20 English tour of South Africa, Sky Sports filmed a feature story entitled 25 Years of the Barmy Army to commemorate the group's 25-year anniversary. I mean, did you take part in this feature story, Chris?
Absolutely, yeah. I was the thought process behind it. I've been badgering Rob Reaver, the producer at Sky Sports, for several years, and
Oh,
and
wow.
we finally came together and managed to pull this off. It was a lot of work went into it, and it was really proud to be able to tell the story of the Barmy Army on Sky Sports and get the right people in the room. And if you haven't seen it, it's on the Barmy Army YouTube page, and you can check it out. It's really interesting. Tells you the story from Paul's day right through to my day with Joe on the pitch at interview by Atherton with Rooty on the pitch at Newlands, which was a pretty special moment for me and for to just really think about where we had taken the business from where it was.
Absolutely, because originally when the T-shirts were made, you were saying about it earlier on, the supporters went out the ground. I think it was the first day of the first test, and they went off to a printing shop and came back with a load of. And they named it Atherton's Barmy Army. I think that was the term that was originally used,
It was.
and it exploded from there that day. I mean, that's a sensational story, isn't it? So you were stuck with Barmy Army, as you said earlier on. You couldn't get rid of it.
No, exactly, and it's an amazing brand and it's an amazing name now.
It is.
But it does insinuate something that we've always tried to get away from.
Yeah. Well, don't worry about that now. I think most people know and understand what Barmy Army is. Fantastic
Exactly.
England support. It's brilliant to see. Brilliant to watch. I mean, since graduating, you've returned to Leeds Beckett to support students in various ways. And you stated at the time, and I'll quote again, since leaving Leeds, I've been back to help deliver a module for the sport marketing course on the Barmy Army. Fantastic. My
Yeah.
placement offered me such an opportunity that ever since working for the Barmy Army full time, I've always employed placements and have had several from Leeds Beckett. There is so much value in it for both employers and students, which I can imagine actually. I know that I've seen both sides of it. I mean, that's a tremendous thing to do, Chris, isn't it? That really is the support they've given you, and you're keeping them in the support model for the Barmy Army too. Here, it's brilliant.
Yeah, that's the least I can do. I was given a lot by that university, and for them to
Mm,
still work with me and support me, and therefore I can support them. It's a no-brainer. They're a fantastic university and fantastic people there, and I always think we've got a story to tell and we've got value to give to students. So if anyone ever wants to come on a work placement, there's an open door at our organisation because I was given that opportunity. So I vowed to give as many work placement apprentices an opportunity as possible.
brilliant. So anybody listening to the show, they should get in touch with you straight away if they're looking for a work placement from university.
Absolutely. Yeah, please do.
Brilliant stuff. That's good to hear. And on your hopes for a summer of cricket in 2024, you stated, and I'll quote, I'm still hopeful England will get to the final and win the World Cup. We're the supporters group, so we'll always support the team through thick and thin. I really hope that the nation rallies around England team and that the cricket could capture the nation like the football did the year before. It didn't quite happen though, did it, Chris? The World Cup this year?
No, not quite, but yeah, we're always on the side of the positive coin. We're always glass half full,
Mm,
and whatever England team roll out, we'll always be right behind them to the end of the day. So it's something that is in the ethos of the Barmy Army, and you've got to always support the team. And it wasn't to be this year, but we've had our share of success over the last 10 years, the England
exactly.
cricket team. So we're very happy with where we are at the minute.
Where do you think it went wrong in the World Cup? I mean, it got to the semi-finals. Where do you think it went wrong?
Yeah, they did. It's anyone's game, the T20s, and the T20
Mm,
World Cup is very much a. I don't want to say it was in favour of the Indian team, but they knew where they were going way, way, way in advance of the actual tournament. The England team found out the day that they won their quarterfinals. So things like logistics and travel and having any supporters there supporting England proved to be very difficult. And unfortunately, they were on the wrong side of it. A good contest, a good game, and India are a very, very strong team, and they proved to go all the way and showcase how strong they were in dominating the tournament really from start to finish. And all credit to them, and they celebrated in style.
yeah, they did. Yeah, they were a good side, weren't they? The Indians, it has to be said. And I did remember reading about the structure that was going very much in favour of India at the time. That was a bit beyond all, really, wasn't it? It wasn't good culture. Wasn't cricket,
Correct.
really, as far as I could see. But it happened.
No, it's yeah, it's one of those things. But yeah, cricket's the India dominance in the game is growing and growing increasingly by
Mm,
the year. So hopefully England stay strong and keep developing their team. And there's a lot of young, exciting talent coming through. So there's a lot to still be excited about as an England cricket fan.
Yeah, I agree with you. So a somewhat disappointing summer of cricket for England, Chris, and losing in the World Cup semi-final to India with what I could see at me was a bit of a lacklustre display, really, isn't it? It got quite turned over. And it's still etched on my mind watching it and some other supporters too. But hopefully better times, as you said, ahead for English cricket. We've got the Ashes next year in Australia. Can't wait for that. And no matter what happens, the Barmy Army and its huge following will undoubtedly always be there with the band and the now famous Barmy Army song echoing around the world's cricket grounds. And I can hear it now, Barmy Army. It's fantastic from the thousands of England supporters that go. I mean, it's just one story, isn't it? You expect it to be absolutely colossal in Australia.
Yeah, it'll be huge. We're expecting tens of thousands of fans travelling over there, and it could be upwards of 25,000 people across Melbourne and Sydney that are travelling over for the Ashes, and we'll take a large majority of those through our travel program. And if you are wanting to travel to the Ashes next year, the best way to do it is through the Barmy Army. We take people, offer them that amazing experience and the bucket list item that is watching a Boxing Day or a New Year's Boxing Day test at the MCG or a New Year's test at Sydney with the Barmy Army, celebrating with thousands of people at our major events that we'll put on as well. So it's going to be an incredible experience for anyone that is fortunate enough to go. And if you're not, and if you're thinking about it, then save up and think it's one of those once in a lifetime experiences that you must try.
Absolutely agree. I've been to the MCG in Australia, and I have to say, I went to see an Australian rules football match, actually, not cricket. And I was looking at the pitch, and I was thinking, well, there are wickets under there somewhere, an international wicket. But I did remember the atmosphere in that ground. It's huge, so you can only imagine the atmosphere that's generated between an England and Australian match. It's going to be colossal, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be exciting, and hopefully the England team still have something to play for when we get to it. So,
Yes.
yeah, it's the most excited I've ever been about a series for the next away Ashes tour.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'll be there too, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be going out probably October, November next year for the whole thing, and it's a massive operation. We'll have a big team out there. We'll have a big merchandise team, big travel team, big events team. So it's we're preparing for that now. We've got people that they're bringing into the organisation to help us deliver the scale of the event that we want to try and achieve.
Sounds fantastic. I'm just going to go back briefly to the World Cup again, obviously this year. I mean, Afghanistan must get a mention, surely. Semi-finalists in the T20 World Cup. I mean, that's something else, isn't it? I mean, Afghanistan have come from nowhere to develop their cricket skills on the world stage. I mean, what's happened there, do you think? That's just an incredible story.
Yeah, the rise of Afghanistan's been incredible, and Jonathan Trott's done a fantastic job in driving that national team and making the headlines. And they've developed really, really quickly. That just shows the standard of the passion and the quality of the street cricket that's probably going on over there. And there are some incredible talents. Rashid Khan. You look at they're incredibly naturally talented, gifted cricket players, and it's proven that there will be a force to be reckoned with, especially in the T20 game for years to come. And I think there's a lot of excitement around that team now.
Yeah, it certainly seems so. It's good to watch. I mean, I always like to see the minnows of sport do well. So that's brilliant. It's a really good story. I mean, after this summer in particular, how can cricket grow and build on the relative success of this summer? Because it's been successful for England. They got to the semi-finals of the World Cup. That's not unsuccessful. We'd have liked to have won it. But how do you think cricket can grow and build on this relative success?
Yeah, I think it's been an interesting year for cricket. It's been the World Cup in the Caribbean is the first time we've had a summer World Cup outside of the UK. So that was I guess that's probably a growth for the game. We had a very interesting red ball tour in India that went to the wire, and it was quite a good series. Although India won relatively convincingly, there was a lot of close games and good cricket played. England this summer have been very dominant. It's a little bit sad to see the demise of West Indies Test team and Sri Lanka Test team. There's been some highlights for them, but I guess the rate of speed this England team's developing, there's no one standing in their way and there's no one stopping them. So building really nicely for next year with two huge series, Test series, India at home and the Ashes away. couldn't really be building in a better way, winning every game, dominating games. We'll go to Pakistan this year for the Test tour, and New Zealand hope to dominate those two series as well. So we're going into India and Australia in 2025 with the best possible chances of becoming the number one Test side in the world. And there's no one better to lead that team, and there's no one better to be driving that forward than McCullum and Stokes, and Rooty obviously scoring the runs and making history. What seems to be like on a weekly basis now.
It does, doesn't it? Doing very, very well. The future does look good for England, I have to say. I mean, in terms of tours, Australia is always on my mind to go there, to go do a tour out in Australia. But one of the favourite ones was always West Indies for me. And particularly when you think back, there was always a 5-test match series, West Indies, England, out in the Caribbean, 5 islands to island hop with, plus all the one-day internationals out in the Caribbean, in the West Indies. That seems to be a magical place to go and watch cricket, doesn't it? But it's not a it's not a 5-test series now, is it? It's been diluted.
Unfortunately not. It's 3-test series now, but it's not one for the faint-hearted. It's the most incredible experience, and you go in there with the eyes open, and it is really a fantastic place to watch cricket. The beaches, the culture, the environment, the rum punch. It's one of the best, and it's a firm favourite of our fans. And we sell huge numbers of packages to that tour, alongside I guess South Africa Test Tour and an Ashes Test Tour. It's probably the most buoyant tours that we go on. It's accessible because it's not too expensive. There's lots of hotels, lots of airlines going in and out of the country. All things you have to think about when running cricket tours. Over and above just the quality of the cricket is how we're going to get people there, how we're going to move them around, how we're going to make sure they have the best time ever. And one of the best islands to do that is Barbados, without a shadow of a doubt. And Antigua, St. Lucia, Grenada are all incredible as well. But Barbados is really the hub of cricket over in the West Indies, and it's an amazing place to go and tour. And I can't wait for another Test tour there. But I could wax lyrical about South Africa, New Zealand. Sri Lanka, which I really hope we go to again soon. They're all incredible because you go to so many different places. The diversity is incredible. The experience you're going to have in Sri Lanka is completely different to Barbados, is completely different to India, is completely different to New Zealand, all for incredible reasons. I've been so fortunate to be able to travel with my job and go and experience all these amazing times, and I'm so thankful for that, and I just want to make sure we offer as many people as possible the opportunity to do the same.
Yeah, absolutely right. You could say you got the best job in the world, Chris, really, couldn't you?
Well, as I always say, someone's got to do it, right?
They certainly have. And for you, luckily, it's fallen nicely into your lap, so congratulations, well done with that. What a great job to have. But in your view, what major problems does cricket face, do you think, at the moment? Are there any major problems?
Yeah, absolutely. The schedule. Without a shadow of a doubt, the schedule is the number one problem within the game. You're seeing international competitions becoming diluted by people prioritizing private leagues that are going to pay more money.
Yes.
You cannot blame the cricketers for that. They're employees. They're earning money just like we are in our day jobs. They want to earn the most money for their families as possible. The governance of the game needs to change to make sure that people are remunerated for playing for their countries in a way far and beyond what they get remunerated for playing. I guess other than the IPL, which has to probably pay more, remunerated better than the other private leagues that are popping up around the world. It's a huge challenge because there's only so much money within the game. However, the distribution of the money needs to improve. And of course, India are the main generators of revenue and income within the game. However, the distribution needs to be leveled out more because, unfortunately, if they keep generating all the money and it keeps probably going primarily to India, England, and Australia, we're going to see a very diluted competition in 10 years' time, and that change has to happen now. And I hope that the governors of the game are listening. I've voiced my concerns in conferences that they've been at in the past, and other people have a shared opinion. But we need to have a plan now, and change needs to happen now to protect the future of the game, especially on an international stage.
Yeah, it's very vivid, isn't it, really? And you're quite right in putting that out there, various meetings you go to, and as much focus as possible, because likes of Afghanistan and other smaller nations just won't get a look in. It will ruin cricket completely, I think, as an international sport, where you'll just end up with 3 or 4 nations winning everything all the time. You want bigger competitions, and you want to see cricket growing in other countries as a national sport, as a world sport. So let's hope that you can drive that. I really do, and I think Barmy Army's got a good look into that, because you've got all the supporters you have in the Barmy Army. You've got a voice, you've got a vision. So why not drive that? Absolutely. The organisers and the various boards that make decisions need to stand up and listen, don't they? They really do.
Yeah, yeah, and we are fortunate to have a great line of communication with all the
Mm,
main administrators within the game, and we realise our place as fans, but we do have a voice, and we do want to shout from the rooftops that we want the game to be sustainable for the long-term future, and we want to make sure that we carry on touring to Sri Lanka and West Indies and to South Africa.
yeah,
And to do that, we need to make sure that the prioritisation for those countries remains firmly on international cricket, not privatisation of the leagues and all those countries. So there's work to be done, but it has to be done for the good of the game, and it can be done if the interests, if everyone's personal interests are not put before the game's best interest, which is what our biggest appeal will all be about.
quite right. And when you look at the World Cup, just stepping back a moment or two, even the USA had a side, and they did quite well, didn't they? The USA, Canada, really, there's a lot of difference in that World Cup 2020 this year, with other nations joining in. That was good to see.
It was. I went to the India versus USA game in New York, which was incredible to see the developing nation and
Yes.
sport being developed over there in the way it was. There was no legacy planning though for beyond the tournament. There is now just a plaque in the park where the game was played. However, there is a lot of passion for the sport in America, a lot of expat passion, and a lot of people learning the sport over there. And it's very exciting to think what the game could become if America start taking notice and really giving some more attention to the game. It's on the one hand, you look at countries that are maybe struggling, but on the other hand, you look at the opportunity of the new countries coming through with open eyes. So it's cricket's in an incredible position, and in 10, 20 years' time, it's going to be interesting to look back on the direction that it took and the impact that it's therefore had on the smaller nations and the bigger nations.
Yeah, I quite agree. I'll be keeping a close eye on that as well, to be honest with you, what happens over the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah,
An
absolutely.
expanse of cricket globally. That'd be absolutely incredible. The decisions,
It would
as you
be.
say, have to be made now. So the direction has to get done now, doesn't, to make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
in 2020, you're also elected as a board member of the Cricket Supporters Association. There's no end to your talents, is there, Chris? Let's be honest. Tell us more about your role here, Chris. It sounds very exciting.
Yeah, well, it's the Cricket Support Association's fantastic
Yes.
independent body that stands for the game and stands for the fans. And Becky Fairley Clark has done an incredible job. The lady that's driven that for the last, I don't even know how long it is, maybe in between 5 and 10 years, but she's done an incredible job of driving that with a very bought-in board. George DeBell played a big part in the foundation of it as well and setting up the organisation. So it's a great body for cricket fans. It's a great place to be. It's a great organisation to have an independent voice for
Mm,
cricket fans globally, and something that needs to be taken more note of by the administrators. And me and Becky came together and therefore set up the International Cricket Supporters Committee to be able to have a voice for all the fan groups, for all the supporters nations all over the world, to have an independent voice about how we feel the game should be governed and move going forward. And it's something that we're working on, and we're looking to get together at some point soon again and discuss matters that are prevalent within the game and try and put something in front of the administrators that can support and develop and grow the game.
absolutely. And quite right too. Quite right too. I mean, getting away from cricket for a little bit, although there's still some, I'm sure, a little bit of cricket in this. I mean, since 2022, you are also group managing director of Emprise Group Limited, which I understand is a brand growth incubator, which is interesting for the Barmy Army. R66T Academy and Emprise Digital. I mean, please tell us more about this group. It all sounds very interesting and I'm sure very successful. But the R66T Academy, what's that all about? It's obviously a cricket academy of some form. Am
Yeah,
I
so
wrong?
we set up the group in 2022 because as you know, I'm friends with Joe and Billy Root, family
Yes,
friends, and Matt Root at the time was the FD of the Barmy Army and a business mentor of mine, being a very successful businessman himself. He set up the Root Academy through the Root family. So R66T is Root. Joe's number is 66. So Root Academy, it's just a little bit of a play on the brand there. And it's
gotcha.
something that he needed some support with. He needed a management team to wrap around it. So we decided to pull a couple of investors together and set up a group structure where we could become a brand incubator primarily for cricket businesses. But we will be looking to expand out at some point. But at the minute, our focus is firmly on growing the Barmy Army, the Root Academy, Emprise Digital, and Emprise Teamwear that is a grassroots cricket clothing company that we've set up as well. So there's plenty going on. We cover all areas of cricket, from the supporters to the coaches to the kids that are going to the summer camps to the digital marketing agencies, right through to the kit that they'll wear on the pitch. So there really isn't an area of cricket that we don't touch, and it's something that we're looking to carry on growing and carry on expanding for many years to come.
What a great story that is. So you live a busy life, but what is next in the world of Chris Millard, Chris? What else are you focusing on? There must be other things. You're very entrepreneurial, and it's great to see. It really is.
Yeah, I can't sit still, as I'm sure my family will vouch for, my close friends. But yeah, we've got a couple of very exciting things in the pipeline. We've got another opportunity on the table to bring someone into Emprise Group, another brand at some point into Emprise Group, and we've got a couple of things happening through the Roots Academy. One with Sheffield Hallam University that we're looking to bring international students over from America, India, Pakistan to do a degree, and then off the back of the degrees, do a high performance coaching program, and really setting up and establishing the Roots Academy in Sheffield as a hub for high performance athletes that are wanting to study at the same time. So that's actually being launched today with the university, and it's something that we're incredibly excited about. It's the first time a cricket program has been launched like this in the UK. There are plenty of football programs, but it's the first dip of the toe for cricket. So intrigued to see what it can offer and how we can try and scale it far beyond this year. So there's plenty going on, and it keeps evolving, and something that we hopefully look back on in years to come thinking those were really good days, really fulfilling days. And as many mentors of mine have said, and people that I trust, it's very much about the journey, not the destination. So it's trying to enjoy it while striving for all the goals that we set, the lofty targets we set. Is all about the enjoyment along the way of what we're doing and the space and the world that we operate in.
What a great journey that is. And you're still enjoying that great journey now, Chris, aren't you? It's fabulous. It's a wonderful story, it really is. And a story I've enjoyed discussing with you. I really have. Incredible. And I just hope the Barmy Army does continue to grow as it has done, does have this effect on the global environment of cricket internationally and locally as well, domestically. And it continues to grow in the way that it has been growing. I mean, you really have nurtured the Barmy Army in a really good direction, haven't you? You really have.
I appreciate it. Yeah, we've got plenty of work to do still, but we're very proud of the work we've done. And it isn't just me. I might be the face of it now, but the team behind me are incredible, and we've got the most amazing people. And I know I speak to a lot of business colleagues and people I trust, and they're always amazed when they meet my team because of how good the people are and how high quality they are at doing their job, and how bought into what we do they are. And they're really to be celebrated for where we've managed to take the brand today, but also the future is a lot brighter, and we're very excited about tomorrow.
Yeah, quite rightly so too. What a venture. What a story. And as always, on the World of Lord Russell podcast talk show, we could talk forever, Chris, about your life in business and in world cricket too, particularly around the English Barmy Army away day tours, which is, something I've got to get on one of these days. I really have. Maybe Australia next year for the Ashes. It's been a
Got to
huge
do it.
pleasure yeah, I think so. It's been a huge pleasure as always. And as always, the pleasure is all mine. And of course, the show's audience when the podcast is released on the World of Lord Russell podcast talk show and the Lord Russell Baker YouTube channel. Thank you, Chris. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll give you Chris Millard. What a fantastic, and I'm doing a clapping of the hands here. It's a real applause. A lovely story. Do you mind
Thanks for having me
staying
on.
on? Yo, it's
Been a
been an
pleasure.
absolute pleasure. Do you mind staying on for a few minutes after I wrap up? Have a quick chat?
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
Perfect. Thank you, Chris. The
no
next
problem.
episode on the World of Lord Russell podcast talk show is Butchler Scores for Tottenham, where my special guest will be David Butchler, who is a passionate advocate for the sport of football and, of course, Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. David Butchler is best known as a practitioner in the field of financial restructuring, operational turnaround, and corporate recovery. David is closely associated with Tottenham Hotspur Football Club and the former vice chairman from 2001 to 2006, alongside, of course, Lord Alan Sugar. And when Lord Alan Sugar left, David Butchler did take the reins as chairman for a while. Not forgetting, of course, David is a lifelong fan of English National Opera, of which David became deputy chairman in 2006, a position he held for some 10 years. And of course, I'm looking forward to seeing you all on the inside. So until then, it's au revoir from him and au revoir from me.